Okay, all right, so we'll get started here. So this is a presentation that you can give to parents in your community. We do really urge you to have at least 2 meetings for the parents every year, and I think we really want them to know what we're teaching the young people, and we have other ways of contact. We have the parentgrams and other things I'll talk about later this afternoon. But let me just go through this presentation. And basically, it's an overview of both parts of our curriculum, but also the underlying philosophy of our program. Okay, so as it says, let's make an impact, let's make a change, empowering our youth to make healthy choices. All right, and then we're living in an era of teen confusion. They're told one thing, they often see the opposite. And as this Time magazine cover is showing, is just do it, just say no, just wear a condom. What's the kid supposed to think? And that's right. They hear a lot of contradictory messages, and it does get confusing for them. And then parents, as parents, as children, usually the children are very happy to listen to parents and believe what you're saying, right? But as adolescents, they're in a stage in their life when they're beginning to question a lot of things, and that actually is a very important part of their development, because it should not just be, oh, this is what my parents say or what my parents believe. They need to choose it for themselves. They need to hopefully make the values that you advocate and you try to live by their own. So it is a time when they are questioning a lot. And many parents are confused about how to guide their child adults. Some days they're acting like their younger selves, and some days they're acting, pretty differently. All right, and then we have the marketing of sex, alcohol, and violence, and where teen rebellion is just another product to be marketed and sold right back to them. There's a Frontline documentary called The Merchants of Cool, and the URL is on the bottom here. And it shows that, MTV and other big corporations, they do marketing research about how to get the attention of young, of teen boys and girls. And they have a stereotype of an angry, rebellious male teenager, and it's called the Mook. And then they have the stereotype of kind of a sexy teenage girl I think it's called the midriff. Yeah, so they, showing off her body, this type of thing. So what are they marketing? They're marketing violence, sort of like an FU, attitude. I had to cover up this gangster rap album here. Naked, showing a naked man, naked woman having sex, alcohol use, and showing off your body. Okay, so that's what the media is marketing, and that's a message. That's another curriculum that the young people are getting for 6 or 7 hours a day. And then we have other cultural traps for teenagers, promoting the thug life, right? And what is that? What is the message? Low expectations and fatalistic attitudes, right? Often that way. And then unfortunately, for many teen girls, becoming pregnant is a conscious choice, or I don't mind. Oh, you need to mute yourself. Yeah. Okay. So there was research done, and they found that for 40% of poor pregnant girls, becoming pregnant was a conscious choice, or they said, I don't mind. So yeah, so the, and it's quite sad, I would say, that for many of these teenage girls, they don't have any goals in life that would greater than having someone's baby. So that's another thing. We think it's always an accident. Actually, in many cases, it's not an accident. It's something that they're actually choosing or accepting. And then you have rappers like Tupac Shakur, who actually was raised in a well-educated, middle-class family. He had a good education, but then he took on this persona of the player, thug, and pimp role, and he, got into the East Coast, West Coast hip hop rivalry, which involved verbal conflicts with other rappers, and it led to actually him being shot and killed. He was shot multiple times in a drive-by shooting, and then he died at the age of 25. So he actually chose this persona because it made him more popular for his career. And then this young man on the right named Little Boosie, he's an American rapper from Baton Rouge, Louisiana. In 2011, he was sentenced to 8 years in state prison after he pled guilty to drug charges. So, the media celebrates rappers who take on this thug persona. And I've actually heard of musicians who go to these music companies and, they're written maybe songs about love and those sorts of things. And then the music industry tells them we're not interested in that. We need you to portray yourself as a thug, basically. And there is research about the impact of rap music videos. One study found that youth with heavy exposure to rap music were 3 times more likely to have hit a teacher, 2.5 times more likely to have been arrested, 2 times as likely to have had multiple sex partners, 1.5 times as likely to have a new STD and use drugs and alcohol. So, the messages in a lot of the rap music are really pretty negative. Now, I'm not against rap music in totality, because there are some rap music songs that actually have, a more positive or intelligent message. And we actually include that we have a rap song that we use in one of our presentations. So, but you need to be very selective. Okay. 1 in 2 boys say they've never really thought about what my life would be like if I got someone pregnant as a teenager. So now if they're very clear about about making a choice to not have sex, I guess you could say, well, they don't need to think about it. But if they're not clear about whether they're going to have sex or whether they're intending to have sex, don't you think that this is something that they should think about? And also 4 in 10 girls say that they have never really thought about what their lives would be like if they got pregnant. And again, if they made a clear decision to wait, then I guess they don't need to think about this. But if they're not clear, or they're basically saying, yes, I think I will do that, then are they really ready to take on the consequences? Obviously not. Now, here's a young woman who looks very depressed. And if I were in a room with a teen audience, I would say, why does she look so depressed? And the reason is that she's holding a pregnancy test utensil, I don't know what you call it, and she just found out that she is pregnant. And she realizes too late that she's not ready herself. Her boyfriend is immature and not responsible and not able to help her, and that she's really made her life a lot harder. And then fatalistic teens can be a self-fulfilling prophecy. Nearly 15% of teenagers in America think that they will die young, leading many to drug abuse, suicide attempts, and other self-destructive behaviors. Fatalistic teens take chances because they feel hopeless. And over 7 years, fatalistic teens are 7 times more likely to be diagnosed with the HIV/AIDS virus. So this was back in 2009 when this study was done. And they're more likely to attempt suicide and to get into fights, resulting in serious injuries. So fatalistic attitudes is something that we definitely want to challenge, with our young people. And then teens are, and if you have questions, feel free to speak up, but otherwise I'll keep on going. There are a lot of temptations to do the quick and easy way to be popular or to appear adult. So I asked the teens, what are those quick and easy ways that some young people choose to kind of show that they're cool and mature? So, drinking alcohol, smoking cigarettes, maybe using drugs, having sex, these are all things that they kind of take on to these like shortcuts, getting involved in negative behaviors, which supposedly shows that you're grown up, right? So in our program, we teach about how to achieve legitimate success, right? Success that won't be just short term. Yeah, you could go out and sell drugs and make a lot of money, but is that legitimate? Is that something that might get you thrown in prison, right? And we teach about lasting happiness, not just a short-term fulfillment, but happiness that will last for your whole life. And then we talk about true freedom, because when you're taking drugs for, I guess, an hour or so, you may feel really free and you may feel really ecstatic, but after a few hours, the drug is wearing off and you're crashing and you're feeling very depressed and you're needing your next fix. So that is not true freedom. That's a false kind of freedom. Now, a lot of programs, they ignore youth assets. So, and what I mean when I say youth asset, I mean their strengths, their positive internal attributes, which we should be engaging with. If a program is just talking about the risks and trying to, you're really missing out, because your best ally are the ideals that many young people do have. So this was a survey done by MTV Associated Press, and they found that 83% of youth and young adults ages 13 to 24 said that they would rather be their own person rather than fit in with your peers. So they'd rather make their own decisions. 90% agreed there are things that I can do to make myself happier. And 86% agreed there is a difference between being happy in the moment and being happy over the long term in life. 91% of youth and young adults ages 13 to 24 agreed that getting married would make me happy. So many programs, they don't even talk about marriage. You're making a big mistake, because that is an aspect. We found this in the inner city schools in Jersey City, Patterson, other communities. We find they are interested in talking about long-term relationships and also about marriage. even though they may not see a lot of people in their neighborhood who are married. 92% said they definitely or probably would want to get married. Now, it is true that they have that desire, but in many cases, they don't know how to get there. They don't know the things that they as teenagers need to be doing to make it more likely that they can have a successful marriage. Also, people used to think that basically the brain is completely developed by the time that you reach 18 years old, I guess, right? That's the legal age to be drafted and to make your own legal decisions. But actually, the more recent brain search by Dr. Ray Gied in Washington, D.C., they found that the human brain is still developing until about age 25. So in the series of brain images, you can see that the white or yellow or very light green areas of the brain that you can see here, it shows brain cells that are not mature. There's a process of defining neural pathways. So as you get older and approach your 20s and basically age 25 or 26, you can see that the purple and the dark blue is showing where the neural pathways are more defined. So it's in the teen years when you're able to absorb a lot of new information. Kids, they may or may not be good in school, but they know the lyrics of the rap songs, right? they know they memorized it. If they're into sports, they've memorized sports statistics. So there is that ability, right, to absorb information. Unfortunately, if they experiment with destructive behaviors like drug use or alcohol use, then that also gets hardwired into their brain as a teenager, and they're much more likely to be alcohol dependent or even alcoholic, right? So this age of the teen years, it's a time when if they challenge themselves, they can learn a lot, but they have to be very careful about what they learn. So the conclusion is that youth need guidance while their brains are still maturing. Even if they try to tell you as their parent that they know everything, actually, they don't, okay? So we need to encourage them to study hard in school, get honest grades, not through cheating, develop their mind abilities and body without using drugs, develop their character, their ability to serve others, resolve conflict without violence, show respect for the opposite sex, save sex, ideally for marriage or at least until they're older. And then we ask the young people, well, what are the things that could rob you of your dreams? We actually have them write down 5 goals that they definitely want to be able to achieve in their lives, or they think they would like to achieve in their lives. And we have them write this down so it's more clear to them. But then we ask, what are things that could prevent you from achieving your dreams, right? So they may say, some of the things that we've already discussed, drugs, alcohol, uncommitted sex, getting involved with, shoplifting or cheating. These are things that could actually destroy, make your life a lot more difficult. So youth who engage in early sex, obviously they're more likely to get pregnant. They're more likely to experience an STD. They have more concurrent lifetime partners, which means they have, more risk to become a single parent. They have lower educational attainment, and that's not necessarily linked to pregnancy. So There's something about early sex and these other risk behaviors which impacts their ability to learn. They're less likely to use contraception when they do have sex. Now let's talk about gay teenagers. And some people might say abstinence is not relevant for them. And I would say, well, why not? Because they have greater risk for victimization, abuse, depression, suicide. They're more likely to have had sex. They're less likely to have used a condom. They're more likely to have 4 or more sexual partners. They're more likely to use illicit drugs and misuse opioids. So sexual delay is an important protective factor for gay teenagers. It's just as relevant for them as for any other teenager. Now, many young people, they may have problems at home or in their neighborhood, and they may be tempted to use alcohol to forget about their problems. But are they escaping problems, or are they creating more problems, right? So drug and alcohol using teens are much more likely to have sex. They're much more likely to have 4 or more partners. Therefore, they're much more likely to have sexually transmitted diseases. We also talk about coping skills. You know, so we ask young people, when you're feeling bad, what do you do? So, you know, hopefully they know there are things that they could do. We try to have them share that. Take a walk.
You're freezing up.
Oh, we're freezing up? Okay. Everybody else, can you hear me okay?
Yes, we got you now.
Yeah, we got you.
Yeah, you were freezing up on mine too.
Okay. All right. So, so you can take a walk or exercise, listen to music, help another person, talk to someone that you trust. And then we ask, what are your triggers? Like, what are the things that kind of make you upset? So you become more aware of the things that lead you to be kind of down, then you know what to avoid. And then we do talk about sexually transmitted diseases. When I was a teenager, there were only 2 common sexually transmitted diseases, gonorrhea and syphilis, and both of those were curable by penicillin or another antibiotic. But in today's world, there are more than 24 widespread common STDs. Some are deadly, and several are viral STDs, which are not curable. And condoms provide limited protection to these diseases. So teen sex, it's not a harmless rite of passage. I know I've heard that some men take their 11 or 12-year-old sons even to prostitutes to have sex. And I think you're making a big mistake if you do that. And, you know, you can see why. Several STDs can cause child deformities, stillbirth, and sterility. And let me just show you, in the picture here is a woman whose whole body was scarred because when her mother was pregnant, her mother had syphilis. And so she was born infected with syphilis as a baby. And her face is completely scarred, and she spent her whole life with this scarring and probably other problems related to the syphilis. So 10,000 teens contract an STD every day in America. That's 3.65 million infected every year. And then there are viral STDs. Bacterial STDs can be cured, usually with antibiotics. There are some resistant strains of gonorrhea that are very hard to treat, but the other bacterial STDs usually can be treated. But viral STDs cannot be cured with an antibiotic. So we're talking about genital herpes and human papillomavirus. So basically, if you get infected with one of these, you're infected for the rest of your life. The symptoms may ebb, but it is in your body. And teenage girls are more susceptible to HPV infection because the lining of the cervix is very still immature, and they're more easily infected. And so as a result, they have a 200% higher risk of getting cancer of the cervix 10 or 20 years later. If they were sexually active as a teenager, then they're more likely to have cervical cancer. Which actually more women in America die from cervical cancer than die from AIDS. So it is something that we need to warn the teenage girls about. It may not affect them that much when they're teenagers, but it can show up later. You know, a lot of schools, you know, there are a lot of messages about so-called safe sex using condoms, but how much protection does using a condom actually provide? Well, 1 in 5 teen girls who use condoms become pregnant within 1 year. So it does reduce their getting pregnancy, but it does not eliminate it. And as far as HIV and other STDs, there was a meta-analysis done which looked at a lot of different studies, and they found that using condoms consistently every time you have sex reduced the risk for infection with HIV by about 80%, which is significant, but it's you still have 20% failure rate in reducing the risk. And then as far as other common STDs, a number of studies show about 50% risk reduction. So you are reducing your risk for becoming infected by 50% for these common STDs. So let me give you an example. Let's say chlamydia. Chlamydia is very infectious. So on average, you have a 50-50 chance of becoming infected with chlamydia through one sexual encounter with someone who's infected. So if you wear a condom, it's reducing that by 50%. So 50% times 50% is 25%. Okay, so you have reduced it, but you still have a 1 in 4 chance of being infected. So does that sound safe? No, it's really not. It's really partial risk reduction. And then there's the emotional impact. A lot of teenage girls, or even girls in middle school, they think that to be popular with boys or get their attention, they're being pressured to actually give oral sex to other boys. And and they think, well, I'm not going to get pregnant through oral sex, which is true. And they think I would not get an STD, but actually you can get STDs through oral sex. It's a lower transmission through oral sex, but it does happen. So how do you think they feel when they have a sexually transmitted disease in their throat? The actor Michael Douglas got throat cancer from oral sex. Okay, and some assume that they will be more popular after engaging in oral sex. Do you think that's true? isn't it more likely that the boy that they had oral sex with will be bragging to his friends about what he did with you, and you're gaining a bad reputation, basically. And I think it's one of the reasons why girls become suicidal, because their reputation is not so great. And then we have the cases of AIDS among young people who were infected with the AIDS virus as teenagers. So we talk about these stories, and teenagers can get infected, and they often do. Now, we are fortunate now that we have some very powerful treatments which allow people who have developed AIDS to live longer. So that's a great thing, right? But you still have a disease that you need to take a lot of medication for every day. So those drugs have side effects which are not so much fun, and it does damage your health in various ways. Girls who are sexually active in high school are 3 times more likely to be depressed. They also are 3 times more likely to attempt suicide. So obviously having sex did not lead them to be happier. And if they've had more than one sexual partner, then the research shows that on average, they are 11 times more likely to be depressed. So again, having sex in middle school or high school it's not, even aside from the diseases and the pregnancy issue, it's not good for your happiness. And then 1 in 2 sexually active teens said that they felt used, guilty, or regretful, whether or not it was intercourse or oral sex. And then females were 3 times more likely to say that they felt used. So, it's obvious that the impact on the mental health is actually greater for girls than for boys. That's a fact. So I think the girls understand that having sex is not going to make them happy. What about the guys? So it may not really affect the depression level of guys, but something that I would say to young men is, do you want to be engaged in something that hurts girls that you claim to care about? And I'd say you're likely to have your own children someday. How would you feel about a young man using your future daughter for his own pleasure? Would you feel cool with that? Someone using your daughter, just kind of selfishly. And then if you realize that you would not want that, then why do you feel it's okay for you to use a girl that you're not committed to? You're not mature enough to take care of her if she has a child. So it's a different discussion with guys and girls. So risk behaviors precede depression. Previously, researchers thought that youth self-medicate their already existing depression by using drugs or having sex, but they now understand that just experimenting with sex or drugs damages the mental health of girls. Even 1 or 2 times can have a big impact on the mental health of girls. And then with boys, it's a little bit different. More persistent sex, alcohol, and drug use, that damages the mental health of boys. So it's girls are more sensitive, but the damage does reach the boys eventually. So conclusion of this first part of the presentation is we need soundly designed risk avoidance education. not partial risk reduction education that normalizes risky behaviors. Our primary goal and message should not be to make risky behaviors safer, but to help teens to avoid those behaviors to begin with. Teens are still in development. They need parents and mentors to guide them while they mature. Okay, so I think that we should take a short break. Are there any questions or any?
Yes, I do.
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
When you was talking about the brain development, you know, oftentimes you hear they say girls mature quicker than guys.
Right. Yeah.
How does that play with that statement?
Yeah, I think, yeah, definitely girls are, I think that's generally true. Girls are much more verbal. We know that from a young age. They're more able to, you know, talk and communicate verbally. For many boys, that is developed. Yeah, that's true.
No, I think I was asking in that slide where the brains was being developed. Is that the same for both male and female?
Yeah, it is. Oh, I see your point. Let me look that up. Okay, in
certain parts of the brain.
Yeah, let me look that up because I've not. That's not something that I looked at, but I can look it up.
Yeah, I was wondering if maybe they had two different ones. Male
Yeah.
That's all.
Yeah, let me look it up. I don't want to give an opinion if I'm mistaken. Any other questions or? Okay, all right. So let's take. Okay. Okay, actually, this slide here, it looks complicated, but it has a very important message because, you know, one criticism of absence education or sexual risk avoidance education is you're teaching kids that the best thing is to wait till marriage. But the research shows that most of them are not. Okay. The research shows that.
Do you have your?
Yeah, I think it should be muted. Just
One second. Okay. The research shows that most of them are not going to wait until marriage. So I think about 20% do. I have to go back, which to me, that's good for them, right? But it is true that probably 80% will not wait till marriage, or they. I think I saw some research that some have sex before marriage, but it's actually with the person that they're getting married to. Okay, so you know, it's a slightly there's a nuance there, but in any case, yeah. So the critics say, well, 80% are not going to wait till marriage. This slide is to show why, even when we fail to achieve the goal of waiting till marriage, we are still succeeding even if we fail to achieve that goal of waiting till marriage. Okay, so take a look. Okay, so here we have on the left side, these three columns are females, and on the right are the males. And if you look at this, the blue diamond is one partner. They had one partner. And then these horizontal red and blue bars are 2 to 3 partners. And then the diagonal red bars are 4 to 5 partners, and then the very dark is 6 or more partners. Okay, that's what it means here. So if a girl starts having sex at age 14 or younger, she has about a 2% chance of having one lifetime partner. And she has, look at this, about 60% chance of having 6 or more partners in her life. What does that mean? It means she's not likely, if you have 6 or more partners, you're probably not married, or you might have a serial marriages, right? She's having more partners, more STDs, more likely to be pregnant outside of marriage, basically a much harder life, right? And also the effects of depression that we discussed before for girls who are sexually active. Now, if the girl waits until she's 15 or 16, you can see that her chance of having one lifetime partner, it's not huge, but it does grow by 5 times to 10%, right? And then you can see here how the likelihood of her having 6 or more partners has shrunk. You can see how from this to this, it's still not that healthy, but it is getting a little bit more healthy in terms of reducing the number of partners. And then if she waits till 17 or 18, it's a pretty big, she's a 45% chance of having one lifetime partner, which is the ideal. And when I say the ideal, I'm not talking about from a religious perspective. I'm just talking very practically in terms of health, mental health and physical health, like very objective things that anyone should be able to understand, right? So, and you see the same pattern with the boys, right? On the right 3 columns are for boys. You see again that waiting until you're 17 or older, it really moves your behavior in a much healthier direction. So that's why we say, even if we fail to achieve the ideal of waiting till marriage, we're still gaining a lot, even if they wait until they're, graduate from high school, right? And that's why we tell parents, why don't you set a tradition of, we don't have sex as teenager, right? That's for sure. And then let's look at the dating issue. That's another slide. Yeah. So, so that's why our approach, we can answer the objections that some people try to give to it. And let me show you this, another slide here. Condom use increases as age of sexual initiation increases. Some people say, oh, you're teaching kids to wait and to abstain. They won't use condoms if they adopt your approach. But actually, the research shows that by delaying, they become more likely to use a condom when they do start having sex. Mm-hmm. So even if your goal is to increase condom use, our approach of delay as the main message, it is very relevant.
It's definitely not less.
Right, it's definitely not less, for sure, exactly. So our program, it's a youth development, character-based, multimedia HIV/AIDS, STD, and pregnancy prevention program. It's been used in 38 states and 70 countries. And there are several different components. One is the school presentations that we give. And the curriculum is based on several theories. One of them is called social learning theory, which was developed by Albert Bandura in the 1970s. And this is a very influential theory in terms of health education. And he said that human thought, feeling, and behavior is affected by observation. It's not just like Skinner said that you are a product of your environment. Bandura said, no, that's not true. We can think about the behaviors that we see around us of other people that we know, and we can learn from what other people are doing. We don't have to do everything ourselves. directly. We're not just passively reacting to outside influences. We can be active agents of our own change. You could be growing up in a very tough neighborhood in the inner city, and you could see a lot of gang violence, a lot of baby mamas, you know, but you could choose to say, I don't want to be like that. We have the ability to reflect on what we see. We're not just conditioned. There is conditioning going on, but we can reject the conditioning. And our program is designed to help young people to resist conditioning that may be out there. He says it's very important to have credible role models. Authoritarian messages often arouse rebellion or grudging compliance. So one thing that you as free teens leaders and educators, you need to understand is you are not their parent, okay? The parent can say, I don't want you to do that, or you shouldn't do that. Our position is a little bit different. We're like, I like to say we're like an uncle or an aunt or a cousin or an older brother or sister. And we're saying, you know what? Here's why mom and dad actually might have a really good perspective, even though you're kind of feeling rebellious against them. Here, we're like in that position of giving advice or guidance. We are not in the parental position. Okay. And he said that real life stories that young people can identify with are very important, which really starts with your story. Each one of you should be able to at least explain why you're living the lifestyle of no sex outside of marriage. You know, they may ask you, so you should be able to, and if you've made mistakes, you don't have to go into detail, but you could say, look, I made mistakes, but then I realized that I was damaging myself. I was damaging my future wife, my future children. Honestly speaking, it's often people who made a lot of mistakes. They actually are very effective because they know what they're talking. You could say that, right? You could say that. I'm not advocating going out and making mistakes just so you have the role of media is very important in Bandura's theory, and that's what we use a lot of media. We actually invite young people to make their own positive media for that reason, and to become a critical, have media literacy, right? So other factors that affect teen decisions, this is based on research by Dr. Stan Weed at the Institute for Research and Evaluation. How much are they oriented towards their future goals? And how much are they aware that having uncommitted sex as a young person could damage those goals? Self-efficacy, this is very important, actually, in both, Bandura's theory and others. Self-efficacy means not just understanding that something would be good to do, but having confidence that you can do it. For instance, if you're trying to give up smoking cigarettes, some people say, yeah, I understand that giving up cigarettes would be good for my health, but some people struggle a lot, right, to give up cigarettes, right? So then you have to find a way to help them to gain more confidence. There are various, different programs that help people to give up cigarettes. So in our program, yeah, we want to tell young people that it's really beneficial to your life if you delay having sex until you're married, or at least until you're older. And then they understand intellectually that would be good, but they may lack confidence that they can do that. So that's why we practice refusal skills. We do a lot of things. We have them write letters giving guidance to their future child about these issues. So we try to kind of get them into a mindset that I am a person who chooses these things, and I can do that. And then independence from peer pressure, rejection of rationalizations. You know, one rationalization about teen sex is, yeah, teen sex is no good, but if I'm in love, it's okay, right? And we address that issue in our curriculum quite a bit, because that is something that we need to address. And setting boundaries and having a moral identity. So it's not just, you know, these are things that are doing from a kind of a strategic point of view. It has to be deeper than that. It has to be more of what many of our young people, they say, I am a free teen. And that means something to them. It's like a whole lifestyle. It means something. It's more than just, oh, there's a way to avoid STDs, right? It's more than that. And then, so in our program, we have two main pillars: consequences and character. So we talk about the physical, emotional, and social consequences of having uncommitted sex. And then the character component includes future goals in your life, not just career goals, by the way, other kinds of goals too. Affirm waiting. We really emphasize the issue of supervision, parents supervising their children, setting boundaries, independence from peer pressure, and self-efficacy. And we talk quite a bit about 5-star sexuality. Sex is not just a physical thing or just an emotional thing. It is mental. It's also mental, social, and moral. So, and we kind of break that down. Like, what does that mean? So, social, social, if you have sex and you become pregnant and you have a child, then you are creating someone's grandson or granddaughter. You're creating someone's niece or nephew, right? You're creating someone's cousin. So it's obviously not just affecting only your couple. You're not just two people living on the earth by yourselves. So it is affecting, you may need their help. You may need the help of your family to raise a child if you're still young, right? So, and then that's the social dimension. And then the mental part, obviously, do you want to be involved with somebody who wants your body, loves your body, but doesn't care anything about what you think, is not really interested in your internal world of your thoughts? Would you feel respected or valued? No, you'd feel pretty used, probably, right? And then what is the moral dimension? The moral dimension, everything that we do has a moral dimension, right? So if you, for instance, if you choose not to cheat in your education and to get honest grades, that is a moral decision. If you choose to cheat, that is also a moral decision, right? You choose, let's say there's someone who comes in and is new to your school, and you choose to talk to that person, not because just to be nice to be nice and to welcome them to the school. That's a moral decision, to talk to somebody, to not cut ahead in line. Okay. That is a moral, I mean, there are all kinds of decisions we make constantly, like hundreds of moral decisions that we're making every day. And also the way we treat sex is also a moral decision, whether to use somebody for my own benefit or to be faithful and to wait and to be faithful to this person that I marry. Do you see what I'm saying? It's moral. It's constantly, basically 24/7, I would say.
I was talking to the kids about like boundaries and to help them understand, like if you're walking down the street, what's understood when it comes to someone's car?
Right,
You don't touch anyone's car. You don't
Right.
sit on their car.
right,
You don't just bash up someone's
Right.
car. People need their car to go to work and to
Right.
survive. So
right,
you have to
exactly.
respect
Right,
people's property.
yeah,
You want people to respect you too.
right. Also in schools, I often see, guys with their arms around girls in the hallway. And I'm thinking, this girl's letting this guy put his arm around her, and she seems to have no boundaries. I mean, anyway, there are all kinds of decisions, we could talk all day on it. So, and then our question here is, why would you settle for one or two dimensions when you can have all five, basically? Why would you just, settle for a physical thing and maybe somewhat, maybe emotional thing, when you could have all five, a more complete relationship where someone really, really values you, right? Okay, and then we do goal setting. So we ask people to write down goals, and we want them to think about, what kind of person do you want to be? Not just your career, but what kind of person do you want to be? And to help them, you could say, well, who do you admire? Are there anybody that you really admire? And maybe not just a celebrity because they're famous, but someone who you admire them because they're a good person, right? And then what kind of family do you want to have? Sometimes kids write down their goals and they say, I want to be a professional athlete, and I want to become wealthy and rich and live in a really big house and this kind of thing. And then I ask them, I say, okay, are you going to live in that really big mansion by yourself? Probably not, right? And then they say, oh, I want to have a family. Okay. So does that mean you want to get married? Sometimes the school doesn't usually help them to talk about it either. And then what kind of job or career? The average person changes their career about 7 times in their lifetime. So I think it's good to have career goals, but you need to be aware that you may change your career. If you're a professional athlete, you may be very talented athletically, but if you get an accident, you have an injury, your career can be ended like that, right? So, and you can look at different athletes who retired. Some of them made millions of dollars and they become homeless, right? And then there are others who made a lot and then they invested it and now they're doing really, really well. And so if you're going to be an athlete, be a smart athlete, right? Okay. And then there's the issue of, is sex the same as love, or does sex lead to more love? And the answer is not really. Okay. You probably know a lot of couples in your school where they had sex and then they broke up a few weeks or later. Are all the couples that had sex, are they still together? Probably not, right? So it wasn't the right time. We talk about the difference between mature love and immature love. And so we ask the kids, what does mature love look like? What does immature love look like? We get their opinions, but here's a list. Would you agree that immature love is self-centered?
Yes.
It's more about myself. Maybe, by having a girlfriend or boyfriend, my peers think I'm doing really great or something like that. It's not really about that person so much. Conditional. So they may not know what the word conditional means. So conditional means I'll do something for you if you do something for me. There's a condition attached, right? So, I'll take care of you and buy you things and pay attention to you if you let me touch your body, right? Something like that. It's changeable, right? In those teen years, I mean, you can be attracted to one girl one day and next day you're attracted to somebody else. And I mean, the attraction or you can, or the girl may feel she's totally in love with somebody. And then a month later, there's someone else, right? It can change. Crushes, yeah. So it can be resentful. You didn't do what I wanted and now I hate you. Okay. Right. And it can be unethical. They may not. So what does it mean to unethical means not having ethics, and they may not know what does it mean to have ethics. So we'll talk about it, right? Ethics basically means doing the right thing, right? Wanting to do something not just because it benefits you, but doing the right thing when no one's looking, right? So, and then, so the opposite, obviously, the opposite of self-centered is unselfish, more giving, unconditional, unchanging, able to forgive, being ethical, being a good person, right? Okay, so if I asked you, do you think the majority of American teens have had sex? Yes or no? I think a lot of teenagers would probably say, oh, yes, right? Most of them would say, yeah, most teens have had sex, right? But the research shows that's not true. 6 in 10 US teens never had sex. And these are results that every 2 years, the Centers for Disease Control does an annual nationwide survey. And this is the most recent survey that's been made public. And these are consistent for the last 10 years, basically. Yeah, 6 out of 10, 3 out of 5 teens never had sex. So then I ask, well, okay, so more than half of teens never had sex and less than half did have sex. Which group do you think is a smart group? The ones who did or the ones who didn't? And usually they say they know it's the ones who didn't, right? And then my question is, well, what about you? Do you want to be in the smart group or the group that really did not make a good choice? Now, for young people, you may have already had sex, and I'm not really that surprised because there is a lot of pressure to have sex in the media and maybe among your peers. But did you know that 6 in 10 sexually active teens regretted it and wish they had waited? It really wasn't that great an experience for them. And they realized, wow, okay, I did it. I found out what everyone's talking about, but actually, I'm not really mature enough to really enjoy this. This person's really not committed to me. They're young themselves. And they realized, I wish I had not done this at this time in my life. 85% of teens believe that sex should only occur in long-term relationships. So that is a belief that we should be engaging with that belief, right? If they have that ideal. Many choose to stop. Just because you had sex, it does not mean that you cannot stop. Okay, and we want to support you if you want to make that choice. Now, we also ask the young people, who's having the best sex in America? So we have them vote. They can only vote for one group. So there are 4 groups. Do you think that the swinging singles, these are really good looking guys and girls, they're really healthy and attractive. Do you think that they are having the best sex? Okay. And
in the classroom, believe it or not, I almost never have a hand.
okay, Linda says that she doesn't get that many people raising their hand. Okay. Surprisingly. Okay, how about people just live together? They're not married, but they're sharing an apartment. Maybe they're having the best sex. And okay, she says few hands go up. And then how about married people who cheat? Do you think that they're having the best sex?
Usually one hand goes up if they're a 6th grader.
Right.
Okay. And then how about married people who are faithful to each other?
About 80% hands.
Okay, so Linda says 80% of the hands go up. Now, I would say to them, well, you may just say, You may just say that because that's what you believe, right? That may be your idealism showing. But guess what? The most scientific sex survey ever conducted in the United States, they were shocked. The researchers were shocked to find that married people who were faithful had more sex than unmarried singles. And they also enjoyed it much more emotionally and physically both than unmarried singles and people who just were living together.
It's amazing in our culture, they only hear about the first one, yet they realize they're unhappy.
Yeah, the media is promoting what, the first one, right? You know, but actually the truth is married people who are faithful to each other, they have more sex and they enjoy it more. And there's a new study out from more recent that says the same exact thing.
Well, you figure this, the married and faithful people are more discreet, so they probably don't normally go around discussing it with people, whereas the other group, especially the swinging singles, you know, they're
Yeah.
always bragging to each other. And
Right.
guys are talking about
Right.
sex.
And the guys may want to do them, but they don't want to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So in our program, we do present marriage as a positive norm. Okay. And no one can say that, you know, regardless of your views about gay marriage, okay, gay marriage is the law of our nation now. And you cannot say that they cannot get married because it is now legal in America to get married, right? So we do present marriage as making that choice and that commitment to somebody. We do present that as something valuable to think about. Okay, so what about the issue of dating older guys? You know, for a girl, these older guys, they're more mature, they're more experienced, they're more independent, they have more resources. The guy may have a car, you know, or something that looks like a car, and you know, they're attracted to that, right? So that might be a reason to date an older guy, see an older guy. But did you know that there are higher rates of STDs among teen girls than among teen boys the same age as they are, which means that they were probably infected by older male partners, right? They're being sexually intimate with older guys, okay, who have the higher rates, the same higher rates that the girls have. Also, girls who date older guys are more likely to get pregnant.
Because they follow the rules.
Okay, so girls, just want to kind of warn you a little bit that dating an older guy can be kind of dangerous. You know, I understand why you're maybe attracted. Do you know what they call girls who enter the 9th grade in high school? What the older boys, the seniors, the high school senior boys call freshman girls fresh meat. Okay, not fresh men, fresh meat. Okay, because, and these girls may feel, wow, these older guys, they what do I have that these older girls don't have?
Stupidity.
You're naive and stupid. Okay, all right. So
I'm more impressed by the older guys.
yeah, more impressed.
Peers are like, oh,
Yeah, the older girls, they know what these guys are.
yeah.
Guys tell me that they tell each other, if you want sex, find the girls with daddy issues.
Yeah,
Have their
exactly.
father present.
Right. Okay. Also, there is research on delayed dating is a very good choice. One study found that high school students who are not dating, they have less feelings of being depressed, sad, or hopeless. So I think there's no rush to start dating, you know, one-on-one. You know, I realize that, you know, maybe you're feeling peer pressure to do that, but oh, and now I also want to give you 3 rules how to avoid poverty for the rest of your life and your future family. So would you like to know these 3 rules? If you follow these 3 rules, you have a 98% chance of not being poor. And when we say not poor, I mean what do I mean? I mean, you don't have enough money to pay the rent. You don't have enough money to pay the electricity bill or the heating bill, or maybe even the water bill, right? And you don't have to worry about being evicted from an apartment. And you have enough money to buy food every month. So, and clothes and maybe even a little bit of entertainment, right? That's what I mean by,
Yeah, it's not because you don't have the right sneakers.
Yeah,
My
yeah.
son lived in poverty because they didn't have the right sneakers.
right, yes, yeah. So let me show you the 3 rules. Number 1, graduate from high school. Number 2, get a full-time job. Number 3, wait until you're 21 and married before having children. If you follow these 3 rules, you can see here that only 2% of the people who followed these 3 rules actually became poor, right? Whereas 3 out of 4 people who broke these 3 rules are struggling to pay for their rent and the electricity and heat and food and all that. They struggle every month with those things, okay? So it's pretty, I think that's pretty doable. All right, and then we do a dating boundaries activity. We have them write this down in the Free Teens workbook. I'll show you that later. And we have them discuss what are dating situations where it might be difficult to stop a progression of sex. We sometimes call this dangerous dating. What are the things that you could do with somebody where you may not be able to, where you're quite likely to progress to having sex with somebody? Well,
Anywhere dark and alone.
okay, Linda said anywhere dark and alone. Okay.
Anywhere.
So being in a dark room on their bed alone with them is not a good idea.
In the park,
In the park,
forest,
in the
on
car.
beach.
Yeah, in the backseat.
Car.
That's the back of a movie
Beach.
theater.
Okay. All right. Anything else? Any other? What about drinking alcohol? Together.
Drugs, getting high.
Yeah. I mean, guys often want to get the girl a little bit drunk, actually, if they want to make sure that they
Maybe lower
lowers their inhibitions. Maybe seeing R-rated movies where they're portraying people having sex. That probably it's not such a great idea, right? Okay, those are some of the things, right? So we want them to become very clear about this, right? Write them down. Oh wait, okay. Then what about safe dating? How can you have fun with somebody, get to know them, but you're not kind of endangering yourself or doing something you really don't want to do? What would be safe dating activities?
having a chaperone.
Okay, have a chaperone with you, or maybe a
I
group.
was,
Group dating, staying away from drugs and alcohol, being in the light
Okay,
with other people.
okay, staying away from drugs and alcohol and being in well-lit
areas.
well-lit areas.
Lots of people.
Okay. All right.
Less like-
It's kind of obvious, right? But anyway, making it clear. Okay. Now, the research shows that teenagers who do abstain from sex during high school, they are more likely to graduate from high school, go to college or trade school. They make more income in their lifetimes if they wait. Okay, that's based on a lot of research. Here is our LoveSmart Declaration of Freedom. I hope that all the club members get a chance to make this pledge. We have pledge cards, and it's also in our workbooks too. Okay, so Julie, could you read this for us? You do such a great job of reading this.
Sure. LoveSmart Declaration of Freedom. In order to claim my right to be free from pregnancy and STDs, a broken heart, and dishonest relationships, and free to fulfill my life goals, find my one true love, and make a lifelong commitment, I, Julie Edwards Pinnock, have made the decision to abstain from sex until marriage.
Okay, there it
I
is.
did, I'm married.
Okay, all right. Okay, so yeah, so that is the pledge that we ask our club members to make. All right. And All right. So then we also do, group discussions and a lot of role playing, refusal skills and so on in our clubs. And yeah, so here's our refusal skills training. I love you. Don't you love me? And then the other person could say, if you love
me, you respect me. I don't need to prove my love.
Okay, I can't stop.
Well, I can. I don't think you'll be so aroused if I get pregnant and you have to support a baby in high school.
Come on, everyone's doing it.
Well, not with me. I'm not everybody.
You can trust me.
I do trust you. I trust you to stop pressuring me.
Okay, now we're going to reverse the roles here. And then Julie is going to play the playerette. Okay. Actually, why don't you come closer so that we can hear you on the recording?
Okay.
Or you can bring a chair if you want. Okay. Okay. So Julie might say,
well, what's wrong with you?
nothing wrong with me. What's wrong with you?
You don't know what you're missing. I'm really all that.
Well, yes, I do. I'm missing AIDS, STDs, pregnancy, a ruined future, and baby mama drama.
Well, aren't you a man?
Sex does not prove manhood. Get out of my face. Okay. All right. All right. So we practice, and we have, the cards that Linda made. And
I want to tell you, the boys' refusal skills are way above the girls. Girls sound like maybe try a little harder. Boys, they're just amazing.
yeah,
They're
exactly.
amazing.
Right. That's good. That's good. You can get them behind a good message. They know how to push it, right? Right. Okay. And then we talk about my right to refuse. So 1, I have the right to wait. 2, I can say what I don't want. 3, I can leave if this person doesn't respect my wishes. And then the 4 I cans. I can stick with my choice to wait. I can stay away from situations that might lead to sex. I can say no if we're kissing and sexual things start to happen. And I can stop seeing that person if I was pressured to have sex. So we actually recite these together out loud in the classroom. Okay. So this is a concluding slide of our presentations. It says, give a gift to your future self. Do something that your future self will thank you for. So think about this. Most of you, you're in your teen years, but someday you're going to be 30 years old, maybe even 40 or 50. Give a gift to your 30-year-old self. Do something that your future self will say thank you, right? Not, wow, I am dying from cervical cancer now because my teenage self did something stupid, basically.
Or even that you have an incurable STD. Now you have to wear a condom with the person you're married to.
Right. You've got herpes and then, yeah, exactly. There are all kinds of variations on this, right? Okay. So that is kind of like an overview of some of our content, right? It's actually many hours, and then we do parent education. So there was a study done in Philadelphia of teen mother conversations and the loss of virginity. And most of the women in the study, they were single mothers in this study. And they found that teens who had good communication with their mother received a clear no sex message with no promotion of birth control, were 12.5 times less likely to have sex than teens who had none of these 3 things. That's a huge difference, right? Right. So, to the mothers out there, can you have an impact on your children, even if you yourself are not married? And the answer is yes. Yes. But they need to have a clear message. So there's another bigger study. It's called the Ad Health Study, 12,000 families. And they found there were 5 factors that were important. 1 is parent-child connectedness, shared activities, warmth, love, caring. parents who disapproved of teen sex, parents who disapproved of their teen child using contraceptives. Let me just talk about that for a second. Parents who kind of advise their teenage son or daughter to use contraceptives or condoms, they may think I'm helping them because if they do have sex, they'll be so-called protected, right? But in the teenage mind, what is the message that they're hearing?
Give them permission.
Yeah, I've just been given permission from my mom or dad to have sex. So you need to understand your motivation may be good, but they're hearing it differently.
When you think about it, if they got caught in the act by their parent, their anticipation would be, oh, they're not going to be that mad with me because they gave me instructions. on how to
Right,
do it.
exactly.
As opposed to the ones that said, my
They'll
parents
kill
ever
me.
catch me. Yeah, exactly.
Right, exactly. So we need to understand why this is the case. And an absence pledge by the teen was also very, very helpful. And being active in church. Okay, these were the 5 factors they found that led to more young people, waiting. Now, one issue that you need to be aware, there was an update. They found that teens who feel close to their moms are less likely to start having sex early, especially if they know that their mothers disapprove of teen sex. But teens don't always know, they didn't always know that their mothers disapproved. 30% of girls and 45% of boys did not know that their moms strongly disapproved. So you may think that you're clear, but you gotta maybe repeat. And we're giving you materials that you can read together and study together. We have a lot of materials to send home to parents because the research does show that the parents do have the greatest impact if they exercise that influence, right? So let your teen know what you think. That's our message to parents, right?
I find students whose mothers got pregnant with them as teenagers, they all say the same thing. My mother will kill me if I have sex.
Right.
Not just getting pregnant, having sex. And I really feel
Right.
that's a good mother.
Right. So let's talk about parental strictness and teen sex. So if you have very permissive parents, your parents don't really set many boundaries. You can do whatever you want, basically. Those boys and girls are more likely to have sex, right? So the more strictness you see, the rate of teen sex being cut in half, basically, right? Cut in half. But if you're too authoritarian and like a dictator, you do get partially a rebellion effect. So it needs to be firm strictness, but they need to know that you care about them, right? Also, we'll look at the age of first dating. Girls who start dating at age 12 have a 90% likelihood of having sex as a teenager. Okay. Now, if you can delay, what I mean is like one-on-one, seeing somebody one-on-one, right? Like romantically, that's what I'm talking about. Now, if you delay that till age 16 or 17, you cut it way, way down, right? So a girl who waits until age 17 to start dating looks like a 13% chance of being sexually active as a teenager.
This is very important because I have 7th graders girls that would tell me, you don't let girls date when they're young. They're gonna have sex with all the boys by the time they're 18. And this nips it right in the bud.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's counterintuitive.
Yeah, they think that they know.
Yeah.
that. Mhm.
So, maybe you could just set a tradition in your family. You can say, in our family, we do not date until 17 or 18, whatever.
And what that means.
And why we do that. Okay. And why. Okay.
I think it's good, like you said, if we don't do it from a standpoint of just saying, you better not, but more so giving some advice and saying, this is why you shouldn't. And I would really be disappointed if you did.
Right. Exactly. Right. Okay. So now let's talk our weekly club meetings. So yeah, you know, in the classroom, you know, we see the kids maybe 8 to 10 sessions usually in the middle school or high school. So we try to give them a really strong message that they can remember and help them. And we do have research that shows that we do have an impact. But with the clubs, it's much better, because you're seeing them throughout the year usually, and you could see them hopefully every week or at least every other week, and you're having give and take with them. So you can have a greater impact for sure, right? So, this was Brittany Marsh, who was a girl in Julie's club, and she gave a talk at a conference. So let me play this.
My values and started to form my own identity from the age of 10. And I didn't think that was possible. So I started with Miss Julie, who's my mentor. This is Miss Julie. And what I learned was about abstinence. And I said, what does that mean? What is that? I've never heard that word before. And a lot of teenagers and a lot of young children didn't know what that word meant. And then I found out, and she talked to my parents, and I joined the program. And what I learned was the first presentation I ever saw is the first question we got was, what's a good leader? And do you want to become a good leader? And at that point, I didn't know, because I was raised in such an urban environment with a lot of teen pregnancy. And in my area, 1 out of 4 teenage girls has been pregnant once, had an abortion once, or an STD. And I didn't want to become one of the statistics with a lot of the other girls in my neighborhood. I wanted to help them. I wanted to become an inspiration. So I stayed in the program for 7 years, and I've obtained the skills to know the difference between intimacy, infatuation, and true love in marriage. And I feel like that's what this program has done for me. Now I know that sex is spiritual, emotional, it's mental, and it's also physical. And a lot of people don't know that. And when they get married, they bring emotional baggage and physical baggage. And you can't have a successful marriage with your partner if you've had so many sex partners, or you've had so many breakups or so many heartbreaks. So a lot of people don't know that. And that's what this program helped provide for me. A stable foundation, a strong foundation for one-day marriage. I actually believe in marriage, and a lot of teenagers don't believe that marriage is successful. They have the hopes of getting married, but they have a lot of doubts about marriage actually working. But since I've been in preteens, I know that marriage does work. And as long as you're willing to put in the work and find someone who's willing to wait for you. And I've been practicing my abstinence lifestyle since I was 10 years old. I've been a virgin my whole entire life, and I'm a proud virgin, and I say it from the top of the rooftops, and everywhere I go, I can't help but talk about preteens, talk about learning the relationship refusal skills when we participate in after school club, and we're giving situations where a boy might try to talk to you, a girl might try to talk to you, and how do you say no to not only sex and peer pressure, but also to the negativity that exists through our media and through our whole entire surroundings and our environment. And it's very hard to say no. And I like to say that preteens allows teens to be unique. And it's okay to be different. We learn that it's okay to stand out and not be like everyone else. It's okay to wait and to abstain. And I can actually say that I never actually thought you could have true freedom, but I really feel free. I don't have stress. I don't have to worry about that time of the month not coming. I don't have to worry about anything like that. I don't have to worry about teen pregnancy. I'm a cheerleader for an urban city school where pregnancy rates are really, really high. Someone's always pregnant. Lincoln High School in Jersey City, New Jersey. But I went to McNair Academic High School, and a lot of the girls are very depressed, and a lot of the guys are very depressed. If sex was so great, why are you so depressed? Because at a young age, our brain doesn't fully develop until we're 25 years old. So how can you handle sex, school, your mom and dad on your back about not only school, but your extracurricular activities? How can you handle all of that and juggle sex in between there? And I think it's impossible. And they're depressed. They come to me for advice. I felt like I was Dr. Phil for like a good minute on my cheerleading squad, because they confided in me and they asked me, how are you a virgin? And I've even gotten the comment, you don't look like a virgin. What the heck does a virgin look like? Can somebody tell me? I've never heard you don't look like a virgin. I guess people assume virgins are nerds. Honestly, I am a nerd. And I feel like academically, this program helped me improve. And Dr. Penzo even will show you statistics that shows teens that are abstaining have better success rates of graduating from high school and going on to college. And I'm going to college with a 96 GPA from graduating from high school in the honors program and on full scholarship. So I worked really hard for that. And I want to thank Dr. Fanzet, I want to thank Ms. Julia, Ms. Linda, and everyone that helped me accomplish what I've accomplished. I plan to continue my abstinence lifestyle. I hope you guys encourage your children and all of the teens that you mentor to abstain from sex until marriage, because it is a life-changing experience and it's a part of my identity, and I hope it becomes a part of it. So thank you.
That's,
I think that was just very impromptu. She was not really.
we didn't coach her, but
She gave the whole
so
program.
articulate. Yeah, yeah,
Anytime I tell her to talk, I said, Brittany, you got 5 minutes. She takes 25.
yeah, amazing. And she graduated from college and now she's in graduate school and
She'll graduate this coming May. She's studied to be a physician assistant.
yeah, so she's doing really great. Okay, so I just have a few more slides. Let me just keep on going here.
The goal, she told me,
And I'm back.
at age 12 was to have sex by the age of 14. That was her
Mhm.
goal in life until she met us.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Okay, so then, there's more, we do have education. Basically, I think most of the club meetings are about two hours long usually. So we would expect that maybe 1 hour you're doing fun activities or something, or food or something, and the other hour is going through our curriculum, which we need to get to
Or
quickly.
practicing, preparing for, teaching events.
Yeah, or you're practicing, for a few preteens event, yeah. Okay, and then we have outings and activities. We also have community service. We do expect our clubs to do community service at least once a month, because it really changes. There's actually a lot of research shows that people who do community service, they are less sexually active, and they don't even understand exactly why that is, but maybe it changes your perception of yourself. You're serving the community and you're thinking in a more public way. I'm not really sure what the reason is, but
I think a lot of times when they have sex early like that, like you said, they're being self-centered.
yeah,
But then when you do charity work or community service, it takes away your self-centeredness and
Right.
you focus on
right.
how to help other people.
Yeah. So we definitely want them to do that. And then we do a lot of media activities and media education. So, so we've, the teen media summits have been a very popular part of our program. And we've had teen summits, media summits every year when we can, when it's possible. And then we have young people who have actually gone into the media industry. Some of them have gone and chosen to do that. So, okay, and then, and I think Shaka mentioned actually when he was introducing himself that his first contact with us was the Teen Media Summit.
Mm-hmm.
And we, by the way, Shaka, we have your song, by the way, and it's on our SoundCloud, the Free Teen SoundCloud page, so you can listen to yourself if you want to. It's on our website. Okay, and then the research does show that our program does impact. This is for classroom education, but I just like it to know, if you look here, these are the young people who received our education. The blue is the pretest before they heard anything. And then this is the post-test right afterwards. And then this was six to 8 months later is the red. So the question is, do you plan to have sex in the next 12 months? You can see after they heard our program, there was a sharp drop in the number of these were middle school students, by the way. So there was a sharp drop in their thinking that they would have sex in the next 12 months. And it was actually became even lower 6 to 8 months later, which we were very happy to see that for some reason, the impact did not vanish. Usually you expect it might get less after a while. Then here's the question. Do you think you'll have sex before you finish high school? So again, this is a pretest, and they heard our program, and then it dropped to this level, and then it was about the same. It was about the same 6 to 8 months later. Now, in the control groups, you can see that they get surveyed, without our program, right? And then you can see 6 to 8 months later, it has gone up, because just getting older is correlated with being more likely to have sex and planning to have, right? As teens get older, there's more motivation, right? So, and we can see the same thing here in terms of will you have sex before you finish high school? Instead of going down, it went up. You can see that. And then, do you plan to have sex before you get married? So again, we see that. Oh no, do you think you'll have sex before you get married? Right. So again, after our program, there was a sharp reduction, which persisted, 6 to 8 months later, less intention to be sexually active before marriage. And you can see with the control group that didn't get in our program, they're thinking they would have sex before marriage actually increased. Okay, so our program does affect the attitudes and intentions of young people. All right. So, and then we have many testimonies. I don't think I'm going to go through this because we need to move on, but we have a lot of testimonies from young people. Okay, so that is our parent presentation, and this is something that you can have this, or if you would like to have one of our educators come in to show this, please call any of our educators, or if you would like to have a copy, you can show it yourself.